Buenas tardes. Bienvenidos a ¿Qué pasa, mujer? Estamos aquí contentos de tenerlos otro domingo con nosotros. ¿Qué pasa, mujer? Es una plataforma donde podemos hablar lo que nosotros queremos. So thank you for joining us at ¿Qué pasa, mujer? We're here a platform that we have available to us to pretty much talk about anything and everything that we want to. Myself, I'm Viviana, and Maddie Garcia is our host as well. We're going to go ahead and bring her on so we can get started with our topic. Hi, Maddie. ¿Cómo estás?
Hola, ¿qué pasa, mujer? How you guys doing? Muy bien, gracias. Buenas tardes.
Yes.
Bienvenidos a otro ¿Qué pasa, mujer?
Yes, I love it. We're ending November, another month where that's coming to an end, and then we have one more month and then it'll be 2026. How do you feel about that?
It always feels like the year takes forever, and then you get towards the end and it's like, yeah, pasó.
Yes.
It feels like you went like really, really fast. So it's crazy to kind of believe that we made it to the end of yet another year. Always, thinking on how we can make things better, what we should have done better, and what we want to do differently. So
yes, definitely. So today we have to me, it's an interesting topic. It's something that I think we're all guilty of. I used to be an expert at it. I am no longer because I'm getting older, and so it's harder to do it. But I think it requires special powers when we're able to do this. Men could do it as well, but I think we have mastered the concept. Sometimes I think we might get a plus for the women, but we're talking about multitasking. So I know we're all guilty of it. When I was younger, I used to look at it as a positive thing, but as I've gotten older, I've learned that sometimes it's not the best technique to apply to certain things, because then something gives, right? Something suffers from me multitasking. So it's funny because today I got my little planner for the year, because if I'm 47, but sometimes I get stuck in like the digital world, and sometimes I get stuck in the paper world. So I'm like in between. So I do have a planner, but I do have a digital calendar as well, and a digital to-do list, and a written down to-do list as well. I think mainly because I sometimes, just depending what's closest to me, I'll just write it down wherever is closest to me. So that's what I do. Tell me a little bit about how you handle multitasking.
I think, how can I put it? I'm not going to say that I am good at it, but I think as women, sometimes we're bombarded with so much that sometimes, we're just thrown into it, and you just kind of learned how to survive in it, if that makes any sense. So I think, I think back, and whether it was, growing up, whether it was school, like there was always a focus, like you were able to focus. But again, especially when you become a mom, there's so much that you got to pay attention to. And not only so much, it's like, if you think about it, you're not responsible for yourself only anymore. You're responsible for another human being too. So it's like, okay, not did I eat? It's like, did I eat? Did the baby eat? Okay. Did I shower? Did I shower the baby? Did I change the diaper? There's some things that I pick that's to do several things at the same time. So I think we are just thrown into it. To me personally, since I had my children, I've been a multitasker. Just because, again, I had 3 kids, I went from one calendar with a schedule on the wall of medicine, of feedings, of how much they eat, and all these things I've gotten used to my life being crazy and chaotic, and me thinking that I can do 1,000 things at the same time.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
a great job at it, but I don't know.
Yeah, we convinced ourselves that, because what other alternatives do we have if we don't get it done?
What about you, Viviana?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, but I've learned to maybe slow down a little bit, just because I'm more effective if I slow down and I tend to focus on one thing at a time. So a couple of years ago, I started doing block scheduling. So with block scheduling, um, is something that has kind of helped me um, be more productive, if that makes sense. So that's one technique that I use that I've started using the last couple of years. Um, so that's what I do. What about you, Maddie?
Um, I think it's definitely planning. I'm not a big to-do list, but I have noticed that as I've gotten older, I definitely have to write things down. It's like maybe if it's a to-do list, to make sure that I get that done. So I think writing things down has helped a lot. And kind of gives you a focus. Like everything, I think it's like when we have a lot of things pending, a lot of that we got to get done, finishing a task kind of gives you a sense of empowerment and allows you to kind of be able to tackle the next challenge. Because I think sometimes, we are guilty of starting different and after and you quit on yourself. But I think if you finish actually one of your tasks, it empowers you to be able to want to do and finish the next one. So I think that's important.
Yeah, every time we talk about this, I think I always mention the book, The One Thing, and that really gives you perspective on exactly what you just said, right? About we have so many things to do throughout the day, but let's focus. If we don't do anything else in the day, let's make sure that I do that, right? So whether it's going to the bank and opening a savings account, even though you have to do, 10 other things, pick up the kids from school, get a manicure, pedicure, but the one thing that is going to be priority for the day is opening that savings account, for example. So just making sure that we get those things done. And I think you bring up a really good point, Maddie, when it comes to us multitasking and the reason why we do it. I think one of the things that you mentioned was us being caregivers. And in our culture, we tend to care for the older people. I'm living that life right now. Number one, because I'm an only child. Number two, I'm the oldest grandchild. Number three, I'm the only kind of grandchild around that's close to my mother and my grandmother. So I have been a caregiver. I didn't really realize it till a couple of months ago, probably, that I was taking care of mom, grandma, also partially with my kids. And then you kind of tend to come last at some point. But I think it's important that as we're taking care of other people, like you stated, Maddie, like there has to be a point where there is some of that self-care. And I think that's crucial. I wanted to ask you, what are some things that you do for self-care or things that you haven't gotten to that maybe you've had good ideas in reference to self-care, but you haven't gotten to them yet? Because it might be something that some of us can do.
Yeah, I think, for me, being a creative, that's kind of like my my go-to when I want to decompress, because it allows me to focus on one thing, which is a good and a bad. A good is a negative and a positive, I think. I was talking to another artist about the same thing, and it's good because it allows you to focus on one thing, but also a negative because I get obsessed. So if I start writing a poem, it might take me 2, 3, 4 hours, and it's like I can't do nothing else because all I can do is think about this poem that I'm writing. If I am crafting and creating something for my door, I will not stop until I finish this item that I'm creating for the door. So sometimes, it's great because it allows me to shift my focus from everything else that I have going on, but it also makes me obsessed about it, and I can't stop until I finish. Running, I think I talked a lot about that. That's kind of like my physical activity of choice. I like running just because, again, I can't think about anything else. The only objective is don't die, breathe, and keep running. So I can think about nothing else. So I love that because, just kind of, I can't think about anything else while I'm doing it. And so, I think, it's like occupying my mind with something that takes over everything, if that makes sense. That's kind of, for me, that's kind of my way to kind of reel it in. I don't know if that makes sense. It makes sense in my head. I don't know.
It's your outlet. It's your outlet to disconnect. Is your me time to do those things. Yeah, so I think that's important for me. It's just really disconnecting. I don't have a particular hobby. I do go to the gym sometimes. I'm not consistent like that, but I do try to go, at least twice a week. But I don't see it as my getaway. I don't see it like you see it. I see it as a peaceful moment. I see it as a little bit of me time, but I really do it for my body to be more conditioned to take the years that's coming along, and they're coming and they're coming with pains and all that stuff, but it is part of some me time, but I don't categorize it the way that you do. I think for me is I enjoy coming home and nobody's home at times. I enjoy that. I enjoy just having some. I enjoy to color, like the adult coloring books. I have some of those. I enjoy being in my office space, and nobody else is in the office. And I just sometimes I play music, sometimes I don't. There's zero interruptions, so I enjoy that as well. And of course, little getaways. I grind a lot, right? And so like in Colombia, I don't know if in the Dominican Republic, but it's like we use this term called ponte las pilas, right? So ponte las pilas is let's go, get it done, right? And so that's usually my life throughout the week. So it's nice to be able to disconnect once a month or every 2 months, even if it's just 2 overnights, even if it's an hour away or 30 minutes away, but just in a different atmosphere, just to disconnect. Is for me my greatest satisfaction when it comes to self-care. Yep. One of the things that I was telling, there's a video that I saw a couple of months ago, and it was talking about that, to schedule your away time. Like you have to get it done, and it's not a time, and especially for myself, because I'm an entrepreneur, it's not a time for me to go and delete emails. Like that's not it, right? It's really time to get away. Some of it is for self-care, and some of it is for the growth of your business. And sometimes it could be for self-growth as well, to kind of put a plan together. I know sometimes we tend to do this at the beginning of a new year, but I think you can start at any time. Like for me, if I want to do something different, I'm not the type of person that waits until Monday. I'm probably going to start right now or tomorrow, one of those things. So I don't like to because then I won't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, it's like sometimes, we don't think about it. Like for example, for me, I used to at work, I used to take my lunch breaks. We have a break room. So I used to go through the break room. But lately it's like, no, I got to get out of the office. And even if I bring my food with me every day, I will go and eat in my car, or I need to get away from the office and away from the desk and away from everything, kind of thing. And I've learned to do that, because that's a way for me to kind of, from, the chaos, So I think it's important, to sometimes, like you said, kind of try to decompress. And I think I'm guilty of it. Sometimes when I have a lot going on, or I don't feel like I accomplished enough, I have a hard time going to sleep, because I'm thinking of everything that I didn't get done. So I have a hard time sometimes disconnecting from whatever happen in my day. If I have too many things pending, if I forgot to do something for a client, if I have to deliver bad news, or things of that nature, that always kind of keeps me awake. So sometimes, it's, again, learning to kind of disconnect and tackle things. Sometimes we tend to put off or put last the things that we want to do the least, So I think sometimes, and we make it, sometimes I think we make it worse in our heads than it actually is, sometimes. So, like, for example, in my case, again, maybe giving bad news to a client, it's like, oh, I don't want to do that because they're going to be mad at me and this is going to happen or whatever. And then I call the client and I'll be like, okay, we couldn't do this, but this is what we can do, whatever. And then, oh, okay. And here I am, I lost 2 days worth of sleep and afraid of calling the client because they were going to be mad at me, but then they're not, So I think sometimes, we do that to ourselves. We put so much pressure. We think, things are not going to be well received, and then things happen and, it's okay, whether it's not perfect or it is perfect. So I think, sometimes it's just, like you said, kind of tackling things, prioritizing things, and and again, being realistic, I think, setting realistic expectations is very important. Again, I'm guilty of it. Sometimes I think my days are longer than what they really are. And I tell myself, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to work, and then I'm going to get dressed, and then I'm going to go out, and then I'm going to come home, and then I'm going to wash the dishes, and then, oh yeah, I could get 3 hours of sleep, and then I'm going to wake up, and then I can do a load of laundry before I get to, and I give myself all of this stuff that I have to do. And then it's like, I can't, I didn't, I slept 6 hours instead of 3. So there goes my day. It threw off my list, So, yeah, I think prioritizing, and if things get done, great. But like you said earlier, this is the one thing. If I'm going to do anything, I got to do this 2 things today. If nothing else gets done, then I can tackle those tomorrow. So I think, that's important. And like we always say in the show, we got to give ourselves grace, because again, we are human. We're not perfect. And again, there's only 24 hours in the day.
Yeah. And we got to sleep.
Correct. Yes. Only if we want to function the next day.
We have to sleep. I think that's the number one thing above anything. But yeah, I just think that I wanted to ask you, do you ever feel guilt for possibly saying no? Or because I was reading an article and they were talking about, you might feel guilty, so you're like not really sleeping well. And I don't have problems sleeping. Like as soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm like, ooh. Sometimes I do wake up in the middle of the night, but I just kind of play music to kind of put me back to sleep. But I do wake up at times being worried about something, but I don't think that I feel guilt per se.
Oh, I do. I feel guilt all the time. And I think it has to be with, I think it has to do with the nurturer in me, and the mother, in me, like I've noticed that whenever I get into a new space, I'm automatically the mom, whether I'm the youngest, the oldest, I'm the mom, because I don't know, that's me. Like to me, it's like, okay, what can I, it's like, can I feed you? Like, are you okay? Can I cook something for you? Like that's like my immediate go-to, it's like, okay, what do you want to do? You want to come over and I'll make some food, like that's me, so it's like, okay, can I cook for you? What can I do for you? What do you need me to do? I'm always concerned about that. And like you said, saying no, people might ask me, I may have somebody that has never asked me for anything, and all of a sudden they ask me to do something, and I might have a hard time saying no. So I will say yes, and it's be like, oh my God, I say yes to this. I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself, you know. So yeah, like last weekend, my niece was having a baby shower, and I'm like, yes, I'm coming. And I worked until 6 o'clock on Friday. My teammate was having her book release Friday after work. So I went to her book release at 8 o'clock at night. I got home at 10:30. I went to sleep probably 11:30. I had to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning so I can drive 8 hours to New York. Thankfully, my husband did the driving, and and we got to New York. I had to take a nap, and then I woke up, and next thing I know, gotta get dressed to go to the baby shower. Went to sleep at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then had to wake up at 9 o'clock to get ready so that we can drive back. So it's like those things that when I'm thinking of them in my head, it's like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. That is doable. We can do this. And then when I'm in the middle of it, it's like, my God, what have I done? I am tired. I want to sleep. I'm not going to make it. Yeah. And, it's like, it made sense in my head. I had a lot of time in that weekend, and then all of a sudden the weekend came, and it's like, how did I think I could do this? So I am very guilty of doing that to myself. I have a hard time saying no. But I think, like you said at the beginning of the show, you're getting older. We're getting older. So I think getting older and recognizing, our limits, it's very important. And we have to, again, set up realistic expectations. So I think I've done the same routine that I just tried to pull this weekend. This is my second time this year doing that. And believe me, I don't know if I'm going to say yes again. Because, yeah.
Yeah, we have to do better. It's like the superpower piece, right? Like we think we're superpowered, that we have these superpowers and that we're able to, because we can, it can get done, right? But it's just, how do you feel afterwards? Because then you don't have enough to give in other areas. Mm-hmm. So like, how do you show up to work the next day after traveling 8 hours going and hours coming back, right? So it's all of those things. I know for me, I felt it maybe 3 or 4 times this year where I overextended myself, and I had to make a phone call and say, hey, I'm not going to make it, or sometimes I will say, I'll get back with you to see if I'm going to go. So I don't really say yes right away. But sometimes, and it's truly because I want to be there, right? Wherever I get an invitation to go to, I do want to go. I want to be a part of it. But sometimes, like you say, it is, we are overextending ourselves, and it's not necessary, because at the end of the day, if we don't have our health, then we can't show up anywhere, right? And sleep is crucial. But I think it also, it could be on a positive note, right? So I know for us in our culture, typically we see other women multitask. And so we kind of mimic that same behavior. And so for our children to kind of see that this is how we take care of family, or this is how we take care of home. So like for us having sons, to still have some type of influence as to what type of women they're going to end up with. And for our daughters the same way, right? The type of wives that they're mm-hmm. going to be. And, but then to also have that balance to kind of teach them. Because I think sometimes, like I saw my mother and my grandmother grind, and maybe they did take breaks, but I don't remember the breaks. I remember mm-hmm. the grind. And I'm sure that they had to take some type of break. Like I know in Colombia, especially now that we're starting to get into December, people really don't go to work the month of December. They're like partying galore, right? They just have a lot of days off. So even though some countries in South America are considered third world countries, but they're traveling, they're going out of town, whether it's 3, 4, 5 hours away, and they're coming back, and they definitely relax there. Mm-hmm. I don't know how it is in the Dominican Republic, but we definitely do that. There's a lot of 3-day weekends in Colombia. So yeah, so I think that's important as well. And I think also I wanted you to tell me a little bit about the mental load, right? So you already kind of spoke on it in reference to the inability to go to sleep because of your mental load.
Mhm.
But what are some things like I don't know, is it because I know you've been married for a long time, so is it still to the point where you could tell your husband like, hey, can you wash the dishes? Or do you just get a dishwasher? You know what I'm saying? Do you like have to come home and just get a cleaning lady to come and clean once a month or twice a month to alleviate you? Like, what are some things that can kind of help with reducing that mental load for you?
Crying.
Hey,
That
that
always
always
works.
works.
Let me tell you. I am a big crybaby, so I do cry whenever I'm overwhelmed, whenever I'm happy, whenever I'm sad. Like that's like my go-to emotion for everything. And you're like, okay, are these happy tears or sad? I'm always crying, regardless of whatever it is. I cry. But saying that, I like I'm very bad at delegating stuff. I do make the mistake of thinking that if you really want to help me from the goodness of your heart, you don't have to ask me. You can do. And I'm guilty because, mm, I was spoiled by my mom. My mom was the kind of person that my mom used to come to my house, and she was the only person that I think I could be with her, and I never had to ask my mom to do anything for me. Nothing. My mom, like, she read my mind. And yeah, it was crazy. It was like, okay, I'm cooking, and then she would wash the dishes, and or she's washing the dishes and I'm cooking, and then I'm feeding one twin and she has the other twin doing the same thing. She's giving my daughter a shower. I never had to tell my mom to do anything. She always knew. And then I had people that would come over to help me, because I had the little ones. And it's like, okay, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to do this? Do you want me to do that? And it's like, it was overwhelming for me because I was trying to focus on what I was doing or what I needed to get done. So I didn't have the time to focus on what I was doing and also explain to you what I need you to get done. So I have a hard time telling people to do anything for me. I sometimes kind of walk away from it and then come back, when I feel strong enough. I think that's like the main thing for me. Because also when I tell you to do something, if you don't do it the way that I would have done it, I'm going to do it again. So sometimes I'd rather you not even try, because sometimes it's like I feel like I'm cleaning up your mess. Don't. And again, that's just me. My daughter's like, oh, you're obsessive compulsive. I'm not, because I am not the neatest person. I am
You
not the
know?
cleanest person. I am not. I just, if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it the way I want to do it. I would rather have a mess in my house for 2 weeks than you clean it and I feel like it's still dirty. You know what I'm saying? Like, let it be messy. I'll get there. I get to it next week, and then I'll clean it the way I want to clean it. Yeah, I don't know. So yes, I do have a hard time, like delegating or asking people to do stuff. And I think, now that I think about it, I think my family uses that against me. So they never learn to do things the right way. So that way they know that I'm never going to ask them to do it because they won't do it the right way. So I think they're playing me. Thank you for making me think about that. Now I'm going to have that conversation.
Yeah. Delegating, I'm learning to do it better. And I think the entrepreneurship in me kind of kicks in sometimes because it does go into other areas of my life. And I'm an only child. So I have been told that I'm always telling people what to do. And I think I do now that I think about it. But I do have to, and because I'm in education, so like I have to, and I own my business, but I still work it as well, right? So like I still tutor, and so I enjoy tutoring. Like it's so fulfilling, and like I'm giving people instructions, and you have to follow and do step A, B, C, D, E. So I've learned to delegate but sometimes you have to delegate. My mom and I were talking about this yesterday. So she needs help with something, but she, like you, she's expecting the person to just go ahead and help. So I do that, right? So like we had dinner yesterday, I cooked, I cleaned like 90%. I just left 10% for her to finish off, but I did most of everything, right? So she was like cleaning something else earlier that day, and she was like, such and such didn't help me. I was like, well, did you ask? No. Why not? Well, because he might not do it properly. Well, just show him how to do it, right? So that's what I've had to learn to say, hey, like even with my son, clean, I can't say clean your room because his definition of clean is different than mine. So clean, I started off by saying there should be nothing on the floor and everything has a home, right? That's my definition of clean. And then I do have to go into the closet to make sure things are hanging and I just thrown on the floor of the closet. So little things like that, little by little, you learn to delegate, and it's like show and tell. You have to show and tell for them to be able to do it later. And at some point, right, Maddie, because we're gonna get older and we're gonna be 70 or 80, and you're not gonna have the same energy to do things. So I think you're gonna have to like kind of learn how to delegate a little bit because it's gonna.
I'm telling you, it's like every time, again, I think, I talked a little bit about this last time, like with when it comes to decorating the house, it's like before it would take me a day or two and I would do the entire house by myself. And then, it would take me a day or so to kind of recuperate and I'm good, and then I would do this 4 times a year. I think I've been trying to Christmas decorate for like 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more. And this past weekend, it was like, that's it. I ain't doing nothing else. The Christmas tree is up. I put here, but there's nothing here. There's nothing here. I usually put some. I'm like, I'm not doing nothing else. Nothing else. So I told my boys, put the boxes away, everything away. Whatever wall did not get a snowflake is not getting a snowflake. It's like, I'm done, because I didn't want to deal with it because I've had my mess laying around for 2 weeks and it was like, okay, I'm not going to do it, so I might as well enjoy what is up and, it is what it is. So kind of getting to that point and understanding that, that even though I feel good, I'm not 20 anymore, or I don't have the same strength that I had when I was 20 or 30, so coming to those realizations. So, and it's sometimes hard because I'm very self-sufficient. I like to do everything myself. I don't like to ask people for anything, like I have a hard time going out and having somebody pay for me. I don't, like even little things like that. I don't like that, like I don't like to feel like I owe anybody anything, so I always feel kind of guilty for that. But hopefully my husband is not watching this because he's gonna say, you don't feel guilty when I pay. He's the exception. But yeah, so having people do things for me, like I would never, like you were mentioning, getting somebody to clean the house. One, I have a hard time with somebody coming into my space, but also I would have a hard time with me sitting down while somebody else is cleaning my space. I can't even fathom that, like I don't know. I would have to leave the house if somebody, is going to clean the house because I wouldn't be able to be in the room, not doing anything while somebody else is doing something, so I don't know, maybe, like you said, I'm going to be 70, 80. Maybe when I'm 80, I'll be, able to delegate. You forgot under that couch over there. That's going to be me with a little, like a little light pointer. Be like, you missed that one over there.
I think it's, as you're talking, I'm thinking about setting, we talked about setting boundaries, right? And learning to say no and stuff like that. But I think also learning our own boundaries. Mm-hmm. So that's important too. So as you were talking, yes, you might not feel, I think it's compromise. And even sometimes it's a compromise within yourself, right? So like, as you're talking, I was like, well, maybe you could just get somebody to clean the bathrooms and the kitchen. That's it. And then you clean everything else, right? So you could still be cleaning another area of the house while they're cleaning the toughest part to me, the toughest part is the bathroom and the kitchen. I just remember I used to do that, right? And it was just great to be able to come home and the bathroom and the kitchen was clean, which is the space that's used the most and is the
Awesome.
toughest to clean. And I was able to manage the rest of the house. So I think finding those compromises within ourselves, even if you do it twice a year, it doesn't even have to be on a consistent basis. But I think we do grind, right? We're
Mhm.
always con las pilas prendidas or whatever. So like, how do you, and that's part of the self-care, right? How do I, what, like you say, with your nails and, getting your nails done and your makeup and your shoes and all that stuff. Oh, that's pretty. All of that. But I think, I encourage you to try maybe something different, for
Mhm.
next year, even if it's twice a year. Just have somebody learn to delegate, I would say, a little bit, un poquito.
I'll I'll think about it. How about that?
Thoughts are good. Thoughts are good. Thoughts is part of the process, part of the progress, part of the progress. And I think it's part, because that covers prioritizing, it covers delegating, it covers setting boundaries, it covers self-care,
Mhm.
and it covers asking for help. And you're helping somebody else because you're paying them for a task they're doing for you.
True, true. And, I think, as we get older too, our body tends to react in different forms as well, so we're going to get a reaction, whether it is exhaustion, you're going to be exhausted for whatever, you're trying to push in yourself. But also, our body can react in different ways, that we never thought possible. So it's also important, to pay attention. And like I said, I know I'm not going to be able to keep this up, or keep the way that I am, forever. Again, in typical Maddie form, I'm going to push as far as I can. But, I do understand that, something does have to give. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's just important, because um as we get older, right? So our mental changes and then our physical body changes as well. Even though I see, and like I see my mom, right? So she's like 20 years older than I am, and her mom is 20 years older than her. So as I see them move, I can envision myself move like how they move. And they're
Mhm.
very active. They're very active people, especially my mother.
I
I
told you,
compare,
you're all vampires.
yeah. I see how she moves with other people that are her age, and she moves, she still has energy. And so I hope to be that way. But of course, it's not the same as to when she was in her 40s,
Mhm.
but she still has movement compared to her peers.
Mhm.
And I just think that, even by you running or me going to the gym twice a week or something like that, it might give us longevity to be able to withstand, some of those, getting the stuff out of the attic and so we can decorate for the different holidays. So I think that's important as well. And I think it also speaks on the resilience that women have, and not to brag on Latina women, but I think and again, because I'm Latina, right? So I know my culture more than
Mhm.
any other culture, but we have, because I've grown up with Latina women, and I just see the resilience that we have in multitasking and how
Mhm.
it can be done and it could be effective. But to also have wisdom to step back and
Mhm.
maybe not multitask when it's not needed, because it's not
Mhm.
always needed. So I think that's important as well.
Yeah, I think going back to the cultural reference or the being Latina or not, I think it has to do a lot with us being from a third world country. You know what I'm saying? Being from countries that are maybe not as advanced as a United States. And when I say as advanced, I'm not saying that it's ancient, but for example, like me growing up, I grew up with no hot water. In Dominican Republic, there was no hot water. It was just water, and the water was cold. So if you took a shower at 6 o'clock in the morning, you were going to freeze yourself because the water was cold. So if you took a shower in the middle of the day at noon, it was beautiful because it was hot outside and the water was, room temperature. Or if it was cold, it felt good on your body. You know what I'm saying? So you kind of learn to adjust. So saying that to say, when you think about, me growing up in Dominican Republic, I grew up with, having to wash my clothes by hand. I didn't have a washing machine growing up. So when we had to wash our socks, I grew up, one thing that my mother always taught me was, you wash your underwear when you take a shower. So, that was normal to me. And I assumed that it was something everybody did. So it wasn't until I moved to the United States that, oh yeah, you could put your dirty underwear in the laundry. Like, really? Like, to me, that was like mind boggling, but it's something that you do here, and you pick one day to do laundry. Like, again, those were things that's how I grew up. So I come here and it's like, okay, I have hot water anytime, cold water whenever I need it. I was talking to somebody today, there's people over there that make a living of selling ice because not everybody has electricity. So not everybody can make ice in their fridge. So sometimes you would have to go to the neighbor or the lady in the corner that sells ice and get a block of ice so that you can have a cold drink for your snack in the middle of the afternoon. That was normal, and you don't think about little things because we take everything for granted here in the United States. But I remember living in our 2-bedroom apartment. It was 5 of us. We were all cramped up in there, but I had cold water, hot water. I had electricity 24/7. If I wanted anything I could want for, I just had to go downstairs and go to the grocery store and buy it. If I wanted to eat whatever, I could find it in the supermarket, and in DR, it was completely different. So, again, you have mothers cooking, not with everything they needed, but they will cook awesome meals. Then you had them doing laundry by hand. They will wash loads and loads of laundry by hand. Then you had, they had to clean the house the old-fashioned way, not with a vacuum cleaner, not with it was like, I remember mopping the floor with a towel and a stick. And you towel, and then you open your towel, and then you take your stick and you mop. I remember these things. This was normal. So when you see that and you see over here somebody that has everything they need, I have a washing machine. Like, sometimes I look at my day and I'm like, oh my God, I did all that today, So you get to do so much. But again, the faster we do things, the more we add to our days, the more things we think we can accomplish. And that's kind of when it gets out of control. So saying that to say, yes, we think our culture is, or Latinas are a certain way, but it's because we see where we come from compared to how it is here. So when you do that comparison, obviously, you're like, okay, we have it easier here. Why are we complaining so much when we had our mothers and grandmothers doing the same thing, like 10 times harder,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a great point you make, because it's the luxuries, to be able to set a timer on the washing machine, and by the time you get home, it'll just be ready to go in the dryer, and even the use of a dryer is a luxury. We have so many luxuries that we take for granted, right? And it, like you said, it just becomes a norm. But because we still have a connection with the way that things are done in our countries, we can see those things. And definitely, it's kind of like people say, the more money you make, the more you spend, right? So it's like, the more time, the more luxuries you have, the more it's just so much more feasible to do so many things, right? To multitask, like we're talking about. And I just think that we really have to prioritize the things that we're teaching our children, because that's how they're going to live life as well. And they're going to make that comparison just like we've made our comparison. So I think that's a great point you made, because then, all the mental health issues we're dealing with, and how I don't know, just everything, right? I remember I used to work in a call center when I was younger, and I used to, it was a lot of multitasking taking place. When you do customer service, you're getting the worst calls. It's not customer service. It should be called something else because you're getting the worst calls. Everybody's calling to complain because something is going wrong. The billing is wrong, the phone's not working, the ATM machine's not working. It's just something not working how it should. And so there's a lot of multitasking happening in your brain with a lot of negativity, and you go into problem solving mode all day, and then you come home, you have to disconnect. I think it's a must. I have a lady that works for me. She's in the educational field in the daytime. She literally comes to work for me 30, 45 minutes early, and she just sits in her car for 30, 45 minutes before she comes into our chaos. It's needed.
Listen, you think I'm kidding? Like, every time I come home, you will find me sitting outside. I will never come home, get out of my car and come inside unless I have somewhere that I gotta go. But I come home, and when I know that I'm coming home and I'm not leaving again, I sit in my car. It doesn't matter what day of the week, what time of the day it is. If this is my final time coming home, I will sit in my car 5 to 10 minutes, and then I will walk in. My husband is always, "Why are you doing? Why are you in your car? And I do that for me all the time. So sometimes, again, like we said at the beginning, or when we say earlier, it's kind of finding that, like you said, that self-care, that thing that will do it for you at that moment, and I think, every moment is different, or everything that you decide to do is going to be different as well. I also want to share before I forget, when I had asked you what we were going to be talking about today, and you said this, like one of the things that I told you was like, I need help because I don't know how to multitask, or, not so much how to multitask, sometimes how to focus on the one task at hand. Again, guilty of it at work because I do customer service. So it's like you take care of one client and then the next client. And it's very common to start an issue with a client and then the client leaves, but you're not done with the issue. And then it requires 1 to 2 or 3 follow-ups. So sometimes it's hard doing something and then, having to come back to it and be like, okay, where was I? So definitely very guilty of that. But when, you mentioned the topic, I, immediately went online and I'm like, how to multitask, and I stumbled upon this and I just kind of wanted to share with everybody. It's called the Pomodoro technique. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it says it was created by an Italian university student, Francesco Cirillo, in the late 1980s to improve his focus and productivity. He named it after a tomato-shaped kitchen timer, and the technique consists of working in 25 minutes intervals called pomodoros, separated by short breaks. After 4 pomodoros, a longer break is taken. So basically, he will focus on a task for 25 minutes at a time, then take a 5-minute break. Then the next, and after he did that for 4 times, then he would take a half an hour break or a 45-minute break. And that kind of helped, with focus and, kind of actually accomplishing things. Like I said earlier, sometimes it's about, because sometimes we tell ourselves, I got to do this and I got to do that. And then you never finish. And when you don't finish what you say you're going to do, you kind of give up. But when you actually finish, it's like, oh, I was able to get that done. Let me focus on this other thing so maybe I can get that thing done. So basically, it says the core process is simple and can be done with any timer. We talked about that earlier, putting timers and things like that. And there are even apps that kind of go by the same name that you can use. So again, choosing a task to complete, setting the timer, Work whatever task you choose to do with undivided attention. And again, force yourself when the timer stops to take a short break, so that you can decompress. After every 4, you take a longer break, anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, so that your brain, it says this helps to prevent burnout and allows your brain to assimilate the information. I think that is very important. Some of the benefits of this study: it helps you enhance focus. By committing just for 25 minutes, it is easier to resist distractions. It reduces procrastination, so you stop leaving things for the end. It says the small initial time commitment makes starting a daunting task much easier and building momentum as you complete each interval. Again, prevention of burnout. Regular scheduled breaks help manage mental fatigue, and it keeps you mentally fresh, which is more effective than marathon sessions, which is what I do. It helps you improve time management. So the method helps you develop a better sense of how long different assignments can take, and making future planning more accurate, which is kind of what we were telling ourselves, kind of setting realistic expectations, so focusing on one thing, setting realistic expectations. So if you give yourself a 25-minute allotted time to finish a specific task, like, again, clean the kitchen, and then your 25 minutes are up and your kitchen is not clean, then you know that it takes you more than 25 minutes to clean the kitchen. So the next time, you're like, okay, I need 2 pomodoros for my kitchen, not 1. So kind of setting realistic expectations so that you can finish. So I thought that was very interesting. So, kind of gave me a lot to think about, and definitely for work, I am going to kind of play with this and see. So I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, let me know. I kind of do a version of it. I will set a timer on my phone or whatever, and I'll just put it like I'll do 45 minutes. So let's say for 45 minutes, and I do it in my professional life. I don't do it in my personal life, but maybe I should do it in my personal life too. But in my professional life, I'll set a timer 45 minutes, and I will work on, my tutoring business for 45 minutes. And then I'll take a 5-10 minute break, sometimes a wine break. And then I'll do another 45 minutes and work on, paying bills or something like that. Take a 10-minute break, and then I do 45-minute ones. But I think I can try to reduce the time because, as I told you, I'm self-diagnosed ADD. So the 25 minutes might be better but then I have to mentally tell myself, 25 minutes on this. And then do I go back to the same task? Because it might take me longer than 25 minutes to finish it, right? But just depending on my brain, I might want to take a break from that task and then do something different, totally different, and then go back to task number 1, like give it another 25 minutes. But yeah, that might work. But I know that I can hang for 45, without distractions, minor distractions. But I have to fight the distractions. And sometimes I'm the distraction because I start doing something else. But I would say the last 4 or 5 months, I've done a better job at catching myself. Like I see my attention deficit happening in the moment, and I'm like, no, go back to what you were doing. I have to do it, but I'm doing better at catching myself for sure.
For sure, yeah, definitely. And a lot of the things that we have mentioned, it's kind of a lot of the things that I, again, doing the research and kind of trying to find ways to kind of multitask or ways to make it easier. Some of the things that I found was create lists. And we talked a lot about that, writing things down, and kind of making sure that what your goal for the day is. Prioritizing, what is more important? What do you need to accomplish, today? I think also grouping your task by similarity sometimes helps a lot, because sometimes you may be working on something, okay, let me again, and just because we talked about cleaning, again, cooking and cleaning the kitchen, that kind of goes hand in hand, because if I'm washing dishes while I'm cooking, I'm already in the kitchen. Sometimes, again, guilty. If I'm cooking, I'm not doing anything else, and when I finish cooking, I have a pile of dishes. But, again, if I'm in the kitchen and I'm standing here, why not wash dishes and, clean the kitchen at the same time? Set realistic goals. Again, this is what I can accomplish today, and not kind of give myself all these tasks that I know I'm never going to accomplish. We talked about delegating, again, I got to add that to my list and kind of be better at that one. Automate a lot of your task, whether it is, like paying bills. You mentioned, that's one of the things that you do. What can I automate so that I don't have to keep doing the same thing over and over every month or every week or however many times?
Yeah, you can get the robot vacuum cleaner and mop.
Shut up. You don't know, girl. I have one, and I think I maybe turned it on maybe twice. Yeah. Anyway, monitor progress. I think that's something, and I'm guilty of that one too. Sometimes, when things take longer than expected, going back to check how it did or how it went the first time, so I think, that's a big one, kind of going back and checking the progress of whatever you started, especially if you didn't finish it, and I love this one. It says, know your limits. Again, we keep saying that, know your limits. This is what I can do. This is what I cannot do. I won't be able to get this done. Then he says, take breaks. Again, making sure that, we get some rest so that we don't get burned out, overwhelmed, or worse, quit. Because I think that, that's kind of what happens a lot. I can't do it. I'm going to quit because I can't finish this. And then I think the last one is my favorite. It says, practice simple tasks. Again, when I am a huge believer, because the first thing that comes to mind is, kind of paying your bills or paying debt. We always talk about the snowball method, just kind of paying the smaller bill first, because when you pay that smaller bill, it kind of gives you a sense of accomplishment, and it helps you focus on the next one, and so on and so forth. I think it's the same with things that we do on an everyday basis. If I can get one thing done, that would inspire me and kind of make me feel like, oh, I can do more. So let me try this one. So I think when we focus on the smaller things first, and if I can get 10 small little things done today, it'll be like, oh my God, I accomplished so much, even if it was just easy little things. So again, goes to giving ourselves grace and, kind of feeling accomplished.
Definitely. I like all of those because I need to eliminate procrastination from my life for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yes, girl.
But this was a great topic. I appreciate all the research that you did to prepare for the show. And it's because it's a real thing. It happens all the time. Sometimes maybe you're not even catching yourself that you're multitasking because it's just kind of like becoming aware that you're doing certain things. So you don't know that you're doing it until you acknowledge it. But I think it's about that, right? It's like the self-care, the acknowledgement of the things that we're doing, and knowing like I'm doing this because why? Like what's my purpose, right? So being intentional about the things that we do. And I also want to say before we end, I just want to make sure that we say hello to our audience. Hi guys, thank you for watching us and sharing our show, and thank you to Mark as well, our producer. Our channel, of course, we're on Roku TV, but we're through Pod TV, which is our channel. And so we have been enjoying doing the show for the last 3 years because again, it's a platform that is given to us, and we definitely do not take it for granted. So we enjoy giving ourselves wisdom and sharing the wisdom with you guys. So that's what we do here in Que Pasa, Mujer. And as you all know, we always finish with one of Maddie's goosebump poems. So we're ready.
I'm sorry to disappoint today now. This is probably something I haven't like read out loud. It's a very short poem. Just, I think it has less than 10 lines in it, but this was just like a little writing prompt, and it was write a poem of what you want to be when you grow up and why. So, yeah. I want to look in the mirror and smile, feel beautiful, and watch the mirror smile back. Have it wanted to be like me. I want my pen to be able to effortlessly translate the language in my heart. Listen to my grandbaby say out loud, Abu, I want to learn to write. I don't want to worry about being this me. I always try to want to be the best that I can be.
I love it. Right on point for the stuff we needed to hear. But then again, thank you, Maddie. I just love all the poems that you ever do. I don't think that I've heard one that I don't like. And of course, you guys know that you can buy Maddie's book on Amazon, Vision of She. Anytime. Yes. Anytime you could buy that anytime, today, tomorrow. Great Christmas gift or New Year's gift, because it's too late for Thanksgiving, so just buy it. But thank you, and I want to wish that you guys have an amazing week.
On purpose. Thank you, Tangi.
As Tangi would say, and do something different. Till next Sunday, and perhaps you guys can share on the next show something different that you did, because I think next time we see you guys, it'll be December. So time is ticking. 2026 is right around the corner. So
there's resolution time.
I know. It's about that time again. So yes. So again, Maddie, thank you for the poem. Thank you for our audience. Thank you for everyone that supports our show. And we will see you next week at 4:00 Eastern Standard Time again. Thank you.
Are just so impressed with them. Like I said, we've been with them for years. I will recommend and refer anyone to them. We stand by A+ academics. They're the best.
A+ tutorial really did help me with all my grades. They all went up when I came to this place. And I would say I recommend this school to everyone.
So it's a really good environment to be in, especially for me, because it makes me look up to my parents.
If you have students that need academic help, A+ Academics is the place to be.
A+ Academics, what a great place to go for academics.
It's just a really great place to learn.